happens in such gatherings, where those whose lives are shaped, fortunately or unfortunately, are surrounded by those whose lives are almost entirely to come, the elders began asking the young what they meant to do with their lives and to project futures for them. They started, naturally, with the older boys. Prosper Kane said Julian had a fine eye for antiques and could tell the real thing from a fake. He had a collection of valuables he had found in flea markets, a medieval spoon, a very old Staffordshire slipware beaker. Julian said easily that after Cambridge he might indeed like to work in museums or galleries. Seraphita Flood, the potter's wife, said she hoped Geraint would be like his father, an artist, and make lovely things. Geraint said she knew really he was no good at that kind of thing. He was good at maths. An astronomer, cried Violet. Geraint said he should like to make a comfortable living. He smiled amiably. Basil said he should go into business in that case. Like William Morris, said Arthur Dobbin, who hoped to introduce business practices into the artists' workshops in Lydd. Geraint went on smiling and eating jellied ham mould. Basil Wellwood said Geraint was welcome to join Charles in his family firm. Charles made a strangled noise, blushed, and was heard to mutter that that was yet to be decided. Etta Skinner said it was odd that nobody in this forward-looking community had asked any of the girls what they wanted to be. She hoped some of them had ambitions. Prosper Kane simultaneously asked Tom what he hoped to become. Tom had no idea. He told the truth. I don't ever want to leave here. I want to go on being in the woods, out on the downs, just being here, and to be boy eternal, said August Staining, inevitably, with a theatrical hum. Leslie Skinner took up Etta's point. He addressed Dorothy, Tom's sister, almost pugnaciously. And you, young woman, what do you hope to be? I am going to be a doctor, said Dorothy. Violet said that was the first that had been heard of that idea. It was indeed the first time it had formed in Dorothy's mind, and she had spoken spontaneously. Doctors and nurses was not a game they played, but she heard herself answer, and suddenly in her head there existed a grown-up Dorothy, a doctor, not sweetly benign, but wielding a scalpel. Skinner said that was a fine ambition, though the way was hard still, and he hoped she would come to University College. But you must want to be married, Hedgehog, said Phyllis, her sister, using a nickname Dorothy disliked. I do. I want a lovely wedding and a house just like this, with a rose garden, and I want to bake bread and wear lovely dresses and have 7 children. Phyllis knew she was pretty. She was always being told she was. The young Floods, Imogen and Pomona, could have been described as beautiful, but they were beautiful in a subdued and uncertain way, certainly unlikely to be stunners. They were both graceful and awkward in their home-woven linens and hand-enamelled bracelets. Imogen had full breasts and wore no supporting underwear. She looked plump. She said she had from time to time thought of studying embroidery at the Royal College. Pomona said she might like that too, or she might like to stay and make tiles in Dungeness. Hedda said she wanted to be a witch. Violet slapped her wrist. They turned to Florence Kane. Florence had had a governess who had borne in upon her that she had caused her mother's death and must devote her life to caring for her father. She had never mentioned these admonitions to her father, who was quite unaware of them and was also well looked after by housekeepers and sappers. He liked to play games with both Julian and Florence, filling brass trays with miscellaneous buttons, beads, bottles, snuff boxes and so on, and asking his children to remember them and identify them. He took quite as much delight in Florence's acuity as in Julian's. Florence did indeed look like his lost Julia, but he thought of the likeness in terms of a Van Eyck angel, serene among its crimped hair. Well, he said, Florence, what will you do? I shall keep house for you, said Florence, who thought this was understood. I hope you won't. I hope you'll have a home of your own, and before that an education. I hope Julian will go to Cambridge, and I hope you will too. Newnham College offers a great deal. I hope you will want to go there. Florence was confused. They had never discussed this, and now firm statements were being made in the middle of a large party. She did not know anything about Newnham College. It was just a name. She doesn't want to be a maiden lady, said Julian, a blue stocking. This annoyed Florence, who said she didn't see why she shouldn't learn something. Julian was going to do so. She would. She fell over her words and felt silent. She couldn't imagine what she might try to learn. That left Griselda. Basil and Catherine were clear about her future. She would be presented at court, become a debutante, and make an advantageous match. Caterina said she hoped Griselda would be as happily married as her parents. Griselda twisted a puce bow rhythmically round and round. Her mother tapped her fingers. Griselda had been shocked, deeply shocked, when Dorothy said she wanted to be a doctor. She had not thought of wanting anything beyond release from puce bows. She had an intense secret life, which consisted of reading novels about women reduced to silent attentiveness, full of inner rebellion or of the effort of resignation. Jane Eyre, Elizabeth Bennet, Fanny Price, Maggie Tulliver. But all these had really wanted love and marriage. None had wanted anything so destructive as to be a doctor. Why had Dorothy never said anything of this intention? Griselda loved Dorothy as Dorothy loved Griselda. She loved toad fright with a passion she dared not admit to, even in toad fright. She came to stay there and was immediately released from her good clothes and set loose to run wild in the woods. There were books everywhere. She had it in her pale head that she and Dorothy might live in the country together and never bother with stays and hat pins and button hooks. That was all she had ever thought of. And now suddenly Dorothy's world was black bags and blood and sick beds and grief and drama, and Griselda was nowhere. Dorothy had a secret. Griselda, her face white, said, I mean to study, like Florence. I learn German and French. I mean to study languages. Caterina said that Griselda had the best possible teachers, and her progress was exemplary. Basil remarked to the surrounding bushes that women's education simply made them dissatisfied. He did not say with what. Griselda twisted another bow and her mother tapped her hand. Humphrey Wellwood picked up Florian. And what do you want to be, Florian? A fox, said Florian. A fox in a foxhole in a wood.